Welcome to the Autism Infocast. I'm Peter Clark, founder and chairman of the Autism Info Center. Our podcasts delve into every part of autism and neurodiversity, and we want to help you spread understanding, respect, and kindness for those whose lives are affected. Whether you're autistic yourself, or whether you know or care for someone who's autistic, or maybe you just come into contact with autistic people in everyday life. Either way, please feel free to check out our hundreds of articles, videos, books, and training courses at autisminfocenter.org. And I'll leave you now in the capable hands of today's hosts, Jemima and Theo. Over to you.
You know, there's this really deep human thing, isn't there? This desire for connection, for real friendship. But what if the way everyone else seems to interact, all those unspoken rules, what if that feels completely foreign? Like trying to understand a language you've never heard. So today on the podcast, we're going to explore that. We're looking at building and keeping friendships, especially focusing on autistic individuals. It's about that shared need we all have for connection, but seen through the lens of how different brains can be wired to, well, engage with the social world. And let's just tackle something right away, this really damaging idea that autistic people prefer to be alone or are sort of aloof. For most, that's just not the case. The desire for friends is just as strong. It's often the how of interacting, the neurological wiring for it that's different.
Exactly. That's such a key point to start with. And our aim here really is to unpack some of the common misunderstandings around autistic friendships. We want to offer some, practical ideas, things that can actually help, not just for autistic people, but honestly, for everyone in these relationships. It's all about building understanding, supporting those connections so they can be strong, and, well, make everyone's lives richer.
Okay, so based on expert insights, let's get into it. Where do the differences often start?
Well, one big area is understanding those unwritten social rules. Think about it. So much of how we interact day to day isn't explicitly taught, is it? Like knowing when it's your turn to talk, or what topics are okay, or how to join a group chat smoothly. These things rely on unspoken norms. And for many autistic people, that can be genuinely confusing. They often do much better with and really appreciate clear, explicit guidelines.
Right. It makes me think of trying to play some really complicated board game. But you've got no rule book. You see people making moves, you see things happening, but the why, the timing, the sort of hidden etiquette, it's just guesswork. What makes it so hard to grasp? Beyond just being unspoken, is it about how the brain processes that social info?
Precisely. It's not just not knowing the rules. It's often a different way of processing social information intuitively. For most neurotypical people, these rules get absorbed almost automatically, through watching, through sort of implicit learning. But for an autistic person, that intuitive pickup might not work the same way. It can feel like every single social situation needs this conscious, deliberate decoding, like running mental calculations constantly. And that, as you can imagine, takes a lot of mental energy. And building on that, another challenge is interpreting nonverbal cues. So much neurotypical communication hangs on body language, tone of voice, facial expressions. These subtle signals. This can lead to real misunderstandings, like someone might miss the slight change in tone that signals sarcasm. They might just take the comment completely literally.
It's amazing when you stop and think about it, how much we read into things without even consciously doing it. I mean, how often do you rely on just a look or how someone's standing to figure out what they really mean? It's almost constant, right? So this constant effort, this conscious decoding work, how does that impact the actual experience of being in a social setting? Does that tie into the energy cost you mentioned?
Absolutely. It directly feeds into this idea of managing social energy. For a lot of autistic people, socializing isn't just hanging out. It's really energy-intensive work. You've got the constant effort of processing cues. You're managing maybe sensory overload from the environment, lights, sounds, crowds, and potentially you're also masking. Yeah, masking is basically suppressing or hiding natural autistic traits or behaviors to try and fit in, to appear more neurotypical. All of that together can be incredibly draining, and that leads to this very real need for significant downtime afterwards just to recover, which unfortunately sometimes gets mistaken for being unfriendly or not interested.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So if navigating the social world can be this demanding, what does that mean for actually building those friendships? How can autistic folks approach it in a way that works for them, gets them the connection they want without burning out?
Well, one really effective strategy is to find your tribe through shared interests. For many autistic people, their special interests aren't just hobbies. They're like core core parts of who they are. They bring huge joy and focus. So connecting over these passions provides a really natural, comfortable foundation for conversation. It often bypasses some of the usual social hurdles, things like joining clubs, finding online communities, anywhere people share that specific enthusiasm. That can be a fantastic way in.
That's a great way to think about it. It's not just finding something to talk about. It's connecting on a level of real shared identity. It almost sounds like the interest itself becomes the main way you communicate, maybe reducing the need to decode all the other stuff. Is that fair?
That's a really good way of putting it, yes. The shared excitement creates its own kind of rhythm, its own common ground. And building on that, another good tip is to maybe start with one-on-one interactions. Large, noisy groups can be really overwhelming, right? They just multiply that energy cost we talked about. It's often much easier, much less draining to get to know someone in a quieter setting, just the two of you. Maybe suggest something low pressure, like playing a board game or visiting a quiet museum together.
Yeah, less crosstalk, fewer cues to track. Makes sense.
And this next one is so important. Be your authentic self. It can be tempting, understandably, to mask those autistic traits to try and fit in. But real meaningful friendships, they're built on authenticity. You shouldn't have to pretend. The right friends, the people who are truly your people, will appreciate you for exactly who you are, neurodivergence and all.
That's the ideal, absolutely. And it's what everyone deserves in a friendship. But practically speaking, how do you balance that need for authenticity with the fact that sometimes, especially when you first meet people, maybe some adaptation is needed? How do you navigate that?
That's a really fair question. It's definitely a balancing act sometimes. I think the key is often understanding your own limits with masking. When does it feel okay, and when does it feel completely unsustainable? Maybe for those first interactions, you focus on finding settings where you can be more yourself naturally, like those shared interest groups we mentioned. And then as you build trust with someone, you can gradually let the mask down more. Which leads nicely to the next point. Communicate your needs. It is absolutely okay, even necessary sometimes, to be open with a friend you trust. You could say something like, hey, sometimes I need things explained really clearly, or just so you know, loud pubs are really hard for me. Like a good friend, someone who cares, will appreciate that honesty. It actually strengthens the friendship.
Okay, so that's really helpful for autistic individuals. But friendship is definitely a two-way street. So let's flip it. If you're a neurotypical person and you want to be a good friend, a good ally, what can you do? How can you help build that bridge?
Great question. And yes, allies can make a huge difference. Probably one of the most impactful things is to be clear and direct in your communication. Try to avoid relying heavily on hints or sarcasm or idioms that need a lot of interpreting. Autistic people often really appreciate it when you just say what you mean, plainly and directly. It cuts down on the guesswork for them, and that can really lower their social anxiety.
It's almost like adopting a say what you mean policy, isn't it? Like maybe just taking a second before you speak to think, is this totally clear? Or could it be taken another way?
Exactly. That simple check can prevent a lot of potential confusion. And linked to clarity is patience. Be patient and allow processing time. In conversation, your autistic friend might genuinely need a bit more time to process what you've said and figure out their response. Try to get comfortable with pauses in the conversation. It doesn't mean they're not listening or they're not interested. Rushing them can actually just add stress and make it harder for them to engage.
That's a good reminder for, well, probably all conversations, really. Let people think.
It is. And another big one, respect their sensory needs. Be really mindful that your friend might be sensitive to things in the environment that you barely notice. It could be loud music, bright or flickering lights, strong perfumes, crowded spaces. It varies from person to person. So maybe proactively suggest quieter activities sometimes, or just pay attention. Do they seem uncomfortable? And always respect their decision if they say they need to step outside for a bit, or even leave altogether if a situation becomes overwhelming. Don't pressure them to stay.
Yeah, and that's where real empathy comes in, isn't it? It's not just listening to what they say, but actually observing and noticing if they seem like they're struggling to cope with the environment. We probably all push through discomfort sometimes without realizing our friend might be doing the same, but it's costing them way more.
Precisely. And that connects to the next point. Appreciate different ways of showing friendship. How your autistic friend shows they care, how they express affection, might look different from what you're used to. They might show their friendship by sharing incredibly detailed facts about something they're passionate about because they want to share their world with you. Or maybe they show it by helping you with a practical task, like fixing something. Or sometimes it's just about enjoying your quiet company, being present together without needing constant chat. Try to value these ways of connecting just as much as you would more conventional expressions of friendship.
That's really important to remember. I bet a lot of neurotypical friends, myself included probably, have sometimes taken things personally when there was absolutely no reason to. Is there a common scenario you hear about, like maybe when an autistic friend needs to leave early or something, that we could help listeners reframe?
Oh, that's an excellent one to bring up. And it leads right into our final piece of advice for neurotypical friends. Don't take differences personally. So yeah, if your friend needs to leave a party early, or maybe they decline an invitation to something really busy, or perhaps they don't make a lot of eye contact when you talk, try really hard not to see that as a rejection of you or a sign they don't value the friendship. Almost always, those actions are about them managing their own energy levels or their sensory needs, or maybe it's just their natural communication style. It's very rarely, if ever, a reflection on you or how they feel about the friendship. Understanding that can prevent a lot of unnecessary hurt feelings and actually make the bond stronger.
When you put it all together, it sounds like the core ingredients are actually the same for all friendships, aren't they? Whether it's between autistic people or autistic and neurotypical people, it really thrives on those fundamentals: mutual respect, kindness, trust, and, actually enjoying each other's company.
Exactly, but there really is no single right way to be a friend. If we can just open ourselves up to different ways of communicating, if we can genuinely honor each other's different needs and capacities, and if we can find that common ground through things we both love, then it's absolutely possible to build really authentic, lasting, and deeply rewarding friendships, connections that genuinely enrich everyone's lives.
So maybe here's a final thought for you, the listener, to take away. How could understanding these different ways of experiencing the social world, these different communication needs, actually enrich all of your relationships? Not just friendships, maybe with family or colleagues too. Think about how you might apply some of these ideas about clarity, patience, and meeting people where they are in your own daily interactions. Thanks for listening to this Autism Infocast from the autisminfocenter.org.
Thank you, Jemima and Theo. I'm sure we've all learned something there today. Don't forget to visit autisminfocenter.org to hear our other episodes, browse our library of articles, see our inspiring range of books, watch our videos about autism and neurodiversity, and find out about training courses that can help you or your organization make the world a safer, happier, and more meaningful place for us all. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, please feel free to spread the word about Autism Info Center. A quick mention on your socials is always appreciated. Until next time, this is Peter Clark from autisminfocenter.org. Have a great day.